Well, I've zoomed in on, I believe, pretty much everything in the painting, on the painting at one time or another. So I'm not going to zoom in all over the place. But I have not zoomed in on this yet. So that's sort of our final hurdle. I'm not a fan of wagon wheels. They are done so often. I find they can be a little bit cheesy. But nonetheless, they do have their place. I've seen beautiful paintings that included wagon wheels, but or the old wood spoke or steel spoke tractor wheels. Anyway, the first iteration of this painting, the small 16 by 20, I had put a wheel in there, and I kind of liked it, and I've done the same again here. It's because it's not the subject of the painting. The painting is really about the shed as a whole. But it's a nice incidental bit of content. It's sort of subdued. It gives interest to this area. Maybe there's a bit of a bench there. Maybe it's just boarded up from the bottom. Over the years, there have been so many different uses for this shed. People will often nail up boards on top of studs so that they can put small nails in or hooks and hang things from them. So, this is all up to your imagination. But I like it. I like the way it's finished. I'm actually very happy with the painting as a whole now. Now I'm going to back up and let's go through colors. I know I've gone through colors. I'm pretty sure I have gone through all of the colors, but we'll do a quick summary of them again anyway. And forgive me if I forget. I'm pretty sure I'll be able to nail them, and if I can't remember them, by looking at them, I should be able to identify them. Okay. This guy, as you see, I've let a little bit of cobalt blue show through in various areas. Talked about that yesterday. The lighter part of the sky is cobalt blue, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, alizarin crimson, raw umber, and white. Where what goes where, I'll leave that up to you to figure out. The dark, the deep, closer, stronger grays, ultramarine blue, cobalt blue, raw umber, bits of alizarin crimson here and there, and titanium white. These hills in the background. Ultramarine blue. Well, basically ultramarine blue and burnt sienna and white, but in some areas I've used cobalt blue mixed with the ultramarine blue, just for the variations of light and variations of color slightly, It's quite blue. If I went with just cobalt blue and white, we'd have very high chroma for hills that are supposed to be in the distance and out of the sun in the shape. So that's why that went that way. The green's in the distance here. Ultramarine blue, yellow ochre. Maybe a hint of burnt sienna. Unlikely. This little rooftop over here, raw umber. I probably added just a touch of burnt sienna and white. This pole, burnt sienna, bits of ultramarine blue and white. Not much ultramarine blue. As you can see, the chroma is fairly high on there. This bit of fence, ultramarine blue, raw umber, and white. This bit of structure here, raw umber, alizarin crimson, white. The trim, you know, here, ultramarine blue, white. And in the odd spot I've added a hint of yellow ochre. Where I wanted to warm it up a little bit, like here and here. Ish. The roof. Burnt sienna, yellow ochre, ultramarine blue, and white. The shed itself. Alizarin crimson, cadmium red. Sometimes a bit of ultramarine blue added in there, sometimes a little cobalt blue added in there. Certainly for this area and over here. The sunlit areas, more quinacridone magenta, a bit of cobalt blue here and here, a little bit of alizarin crimson with my quinacridone there. The other areas generally, mostly cad red medium, dumbed down with a bit of raw umber in places. As we get stronger, I've removed the raw umber. I've just gone to cad red medium and a bit of yellow ochre to warm it up. Okay. Where I wanted the most intense strokes, and there aren't very many of them, there's just hints of it here and there. That's a mixture of cad red medium and cad yellow pale. All the holes, okay? This door, you know, Zorro built that door before he got medical attention for his dyslexia. But that door is burnt sienna, bit of raw umber, bit of ultramarine blue and white. In behind here, in these holes, the holes are all varying degrees of ultramarine blue, sometimes a bit of alizarin crimson, sometimes burnt sienna, sometimes raw umber. Yeah, you know, just trying to vary the colors a little bit, but keeping them toned down, low value. You don't see much difference. You don't need a lot of content there. This is the most important area for the content as far as a subdued, recessed area is concerned, and I think that certainly does the job. Coming into this bright path here, excuse me, yellow ochre, raw umber, and white in varying degrees. When we come down a little bit, we lose the yellow ochre, and we start to add a little bit of alizarin crimson, and then we start to add hints of cobalt blue, and we get rid of more yellow ochre as we go, keeping a little bit of raw umber in the mix, just a little bit. And then as we get closer, we have very little yellow ochre anymore, and we're going more with alizarin crimson and cobalt blue. Then we get into ultramarine blue and alizarin crimson and white. The rocks on the path, ultramarine blue, raw umber, and white. The grassy area, all the grassy areas really, ultramarine blue, yellow ochre, bits of alizarin crimson, no, bits of burnt sienna and white. You know, that includes from here down, this band and this band. You know, varying degrees of white. I think I added actually a little bit of burnt sienna in this streak, maybe in spots here, a little bit here as well, just to warm it up a little bit, seeing as it was adjacent to the sunlit area. Under here I've gone more cobalt blue with just a hint of ultramarine blue and a very little bit of white, and burnt sienna, the undercut here a little bit, and in the crack. I think that's it. I think that covers the colors. You know, it went pretty dark here, ultramarine blue, raw umber, very little white. I think it's kind of a nice scudding shape in there. That seems to work. Okay. I talked about, I think last video, or the video before, I'd mentioned that I have a painting, a 16 by 20 inch, that I was quite happy with when I stopped it, and it's certainly worth it for me, I think, to continue to develop it. But you know, I've been through a lot of fiddly finishing things and reiterating things in the sky and what have you. What I'd like to do is do something with broader strokes now and some strength. And there's nothing more fun than just starting a new canvas. So you can make some sweeping lines and some charcoal, and I'll probably stain this as well before I dig into it as well. So let me just set that aside. But yeah, I think that's what we'll do next. I'm going to lower the camera here. Give you sort of the final shot. I cannot lower my canvas on the easel anymore than that. So and I cannot raise my tripod any higher than what it was. So as a result, sometimes you see so much glare on the top of the painting. It's quite close to the light, and you don't see it as clearly. But you get the picture. Forgive the pun. Talk to you very soon, guys. Hope you have a good day.